most of them, a good number of them at any rate, a high proportion of them dying in the process of being born, or killing their mothers in that process, live for many, many, many thousands and thousands of years, probably not longer than 2.5 decades, eventually dying either of their dentition, which they didn't understand, or of microorganisms that they didn't know existed, meanwhile conducting vicious and venomous turf wars with each other, almost invariably carrying rival fetishes into the fray to demonstrate their moral superiority over others, and that this went on with all its attendant misery and gruesomeness, perhaps with a slow upward curve towards the magnificent mammals that we are today, superb primates that constitute this meeting. And that's how it looked, that's how it was. And heaven watched that with folded arms for 94,000 years. And then, about 6,000 years ago, it's time to intervene. In or around Bronze Age Palestine, by means of various human sacrifices. Now, I couldn't without difficulty be brought to believe in a virgin birth. It would take a lot to make me believe in that. I do think, apparently there is such a thing as parthenogenesis. I don't really believe in resurrection, though according to the Bible it was very commonplace at the time. No big trick to it. All the graves opened at the time of the crucifixion and the inhabitants got out and walked around Jerusalem, according to St. Matthew. So what's so important about just one more? But I could be brought to believe in those. I can't be brought to believe in the hypothesis that I've just given you. That cannot be true. It cannot be true. It is flat out not true. And if it were true, it would mean, as all such religious hypotheses do, that we won that argument too, because that's either a very bad design, a very inept and stupid one, or it's a very wicked and evil one. So that, I think, is a QED. And I thought I might pass that on to you, or as they say in some of the religious communities where I go, share it with you. Finally, this is a very fair-minded and decent and polite and open-faced society, the United States, of which I'm so proud to have become a citizen, taking my oath at the Jefferson Memorial on his birthday, which happens also to be mine, otherwise I wouldn't have made such a presumptuous gesture, and swearing, not just under my breath, but in the ceremony afterwards, explicitly to the Virginia Statute on Religious Freedom, the basis of our magnificent First Amendment, and making a short speech about President Jefferson's letter to the Baptists of Danbury, Connecticut, who were frightened of being massacred by the Congregationalists of Danbury, Connecticut, wished the security of the state against religious persecution, and assuring them that there would forever be a wall of separation between church and state in the United States, and thus coining my new slogan, in which I also invite you to join me, Mr. Jefferson, build up that wall. But exactly and precisely because of the open-mindedness and fair-mindedness and decency and friendliness and hospitality of the United States, I think one has to confront the argument, most recently adumbrated by the president and leader of the free world, George Walker Bush, who says, teach the argument. Let's hear both sides on evolution versus creationism. You'd be surprised by how tenacious that view is, how tenaciously, I mean to say, that view is held by some people. But I feel one might help to get us over some of that hurdle too. First, there isn't an argument. There's not. You don't hear people saying, well, children, chemistry class is over, and then we'll have a break, and then there'll be the alchemy period. After we've done our astronomy, darlings, it'll be the astrology class. You don't get that, and of course it would be ludicrous and hateful if it were proposed. But under the cover of religion, there's no stupidity that can't be advocated. And, well, I learned about Darwinism originally from reading up the debate between Thomas Huxley, coiner of the term agnostic, and Bishop Wilberforce, known as Sophie Sam, at the Natural History Museum in Oxford University. And I learned a lot from studying it as a debate. I think that should be taught, all right. I think people should be made to read about the confrontation between William Jennings Bryan and his opponents. And they should be made to, particularly to read the recent book by H.L. Mencken of all his collected writings on the man, Bryan, who he called, I think too kindly, the idol of all morondom. And Clarence Darrow. I am for the dialectical method, in case you wonder. In fact, Matthew's socialist rant this morning made me feel quite young again. But if that's going to be the case, and if we're going to teach the argument, then there's another corollary, which I call to your attention. Any church that gets a tax break, or any church that gets any subsidy from the faith-based initiative, has to teach Darwin in Sunday school. Is the president aware of this implication? I take leave to doubt it. Should he and his supporters and friends be made aware of it? Yes, I think so. Anywhere it happens in your community, or near your community, any time that you have a Dover, Pennsylvania in your neighborhood, make sure that this point doesn't get lost. So these were the three things that I wanted to share that I felt I'd learned from the trail, and I hope they've been some help. And I really would now prefer to be your hostage, and it's been very nice of you to have been my prisoners. Thank you.
Thank you, Christopher. We have our first question here. Linda, please speak.
Hi, Christopher.
Hello.
I'm Canadian, so my perspective is Canadian Eurocentric, not
American. One nation under Canada.
You gave an excellent presentation at the University of Toronto on free speech. It's on Richard Dawkins' website if people haven't had an opportunity to watch it. And this is a question I wanted to ask Diane, and I didn't get a chance to. And it's concerning our lack of free speech when it comes to Islam in the Europe, Canada, America. We can criticize literally any religious philosophy, ideology, but when it comes to Islam, we are forbidden and we are stopped essentially, and most newspapers are afraid of publicizing anything that criticizes Islam.
During the controversy over the Danish cartoons, which everyone here will remember, which I think was the most suggestive such episode, I went on CNN to debate with some ghoul from some Islamic clerical organization. And I said to the presenter, look, just before we start on this, you have just pretended to show the cartoons on the screen, but what is the word they use for drizzling them out so you actually can't see them? Pixeled them out. And you haven't done this, I think, out of respect for one monotheism. You've done it because you're afraid, haven't you? You and your bureaus are afraid. And she said, yeah, that's right. And I said, well, in that case, I want to say to the person I want to debate with that that's the relationship he has with the media, that he's on here with a gun in his hand, or at least on the table, that he can pick up if he chooses. I just want to get that out of the way right now and have it clearly understood. I've been working in this profession for a very long time. I know many of the editors who wouldn't run those cartoons. And including my editor at Slate, who said, we're not running them. You can link to them from your page, if you like. Which I did, but we're not. And it was, I think, a national disgrace. I don't make my living from the First Amendment, though I do. It's my life, the First Amendment. I hope I don't sound exaggerated to say it's my life, the principles of that amendment. And I have no right to betray it. And it's not to be handed off to the first bunch of clerical bullies who come round to the office. And that's what happened without a struggle. That's what I didn't like about it. And then, when a magazine I also do write for, Free Inquiry in Amherst, which I hope you all get, did run the cartoons, Barnes & Noble said they wouldn't carry the magazine. In fact, they pulled it from the rack. I told my publishers I'm not doing a single event at Barnes & Noble ever again, and I never will.